episode number 53 of Life Without Cravings. So this week I have another interview for you. I'm having a chat with Rob Goodwin, an awesome keto nutrition and exercise coach who is helping people dial in on their diet and exercise goals. And we were going to talk about the victim mentality and how that interferes with your capacity or your ability to reach your goals. But it turned into a lot more than that. So what you will hear us talk about is partially the victim mentality and what you need to do to get out of that. But we're also talking about exercise and whether people should or shouldn't eat carbs, how to use carbs as a tool rather than as nutrition to lose weight and just look great, and why more isn't always better. So you're in for a ride. Just sit down, relax, and enjoy this one. Last time we spoke, you kind of opened a can of worms that I just felt like, oh. It was around the victim mentality and how pacified some people are, and it's just like blaming everyone else, blaming the circumstances, blaming, and not taking responsibility for anything that they do or the results that they have in their lives. So what is the victim mentality? And especially when it comes to like your line of work and my line of work, we don't want to become therapists here, but what is it? What does it look like? And what's the impact that it's having on individuals? And I'm going to let you start.
Well, you know, I've been a coach for, God, my oldest son just turned 30. So that means I've been a coach for 30 damn years. And when you are coaching, well, let me back up. I think one of the things that there aren't too many things I'm proud of. But one of the things I'm kind of proud of is I have been a coach in the trenches working with people for roughly 30 years. Yeah. And on rare occasions, somebody actually gives me a compliment. And the thing that I'm very proud of is they always talk about how I'm real, I'm no BS, I don't pull any punches. And I think that's necessary, especially in the culture that we live in today. And to a fault, my goal has always been, as a coach and as a YouTuber and a podcaster and everything that I do, is to just speak what I think is the 100% truth, even if it's to my detriment. It's not about clicks and likes and follows. I'm going to tell you what I think is the most direct path to achieving the results, the goal that the individual has put forth. And clearly in my sphere, it usually evolves around an aesthetic, looking a certain way, or, because I gear towards more people who are, I got into this whole space because people wanted to train hard and also take advantage of the benefits of a lower carb ketogenic carnivore diet while training super hard in the gym. And I even work with physique competitors and bodybuilders of all levels. And I always tell them, I'm going to tell you what I think works. And oftentimes the frustration is that you have this dogmatic, narrow view from many people in the space, in the industry. And if I, for instance, say, hey, let's use a little bit of carbs around your training, or, we're going to go into a peak week before a competition or before your A event, and I'm going to take you through this depletion phase, I'm going to take you through this carb up. People attack me for not being true to the carnivore lifestyle or the ketogenic lifestyle, when the fact is the goal is to do what is going to be absolutely the best thing for the client in order for them to achieve the result. And I know I'm getting a little off track here, but it's just, we had kind of touched on some of this stuff the last time we spoke, and it really resonates with me. And again, carbs are not always the devil, high fat, low fat, high protein, low protein, depletions, carb ups, whatever. I'm going to tell the client what I think is going to help them achieve the ultimate result. And by having that mindset and that mentality, it's never failed me. And the other thing is you have to be truthful with these people. And when it comes to that mindset and that victim mentality, you get people that use every excuse in the book. Oh, I was born with bad genetics, grandma was fat, mom was fat, so I'm going to be fat. And I'm like, no. I mean, if there's one thing that we know, we're very adaptive species, and we all know that person that can eat anything they want and never gain a pound. And we hate that person. Let's just be honest. Screw them,
Yep.
But
I had
the point
a partner
is
like that back in the days.
Yeah, I know all about that. And the point is, hey, guess what? There are others out there that may not be, that may be genetically disposed to being able to achieve results more efficiently, more quickly, without quite the same effort that other individuals do. And you know what? You got to let that shit go. The point is you can achieve any result you set out for, but it just may take you a little more work. It may take a little more effort. The path may be longer to finding your destination. And once you find that destination, the work hasn't finished. And
but
I think
Rob, that's so fucking unfair.
Well, yeah. What's fair?
I mean, if I put this amount of work in, shouldn't I get the same results as the next person?
Well, you can stamp your little feet and you can throw a tantrum and you can spin around the floor and yell and throw things. And, I'll let you get that out of your system. And then when you're done, we'll get back to work. Because, I have good genetics towards building muscle. I discovered that 30 years ago when I was a 170-pound guy that had no life and no direction. I stumbled across a new acquaintance who happened to be a competitive bodybuilder. He said, "Hey, you want to go to the gym?" I said, "Why not?" And I stumbled onto the fact after lifting some weights with a guy who was pummeling me every single day for a year that, hey, I have the genetics to put on muscle. I'm what one would call a hyper responder. That's fantastic. Good for me. Yay, yay. Doesn't mean I didn't have to work my ass off to a level that few will ever comprehend. When you get on a competition stage or do the things that I did to try to make sure that my experience is translating into making me a better coach and to be able to bring out what others wanted to accomplish and pull that out of them. And that's not an easy task. So yeah, sometimes you have to work a lot harder. Some people have very lean genetics. Some people are dispositioned the other way, disproportionately the other way. So you have to determine what the task at hand is and what the obstacles you face are. And then you just have to face those head on and tell the person, listen, you can sit there and you can beat yourself to death and you can come up with every excuse in the book, or you can get your ass to work. And I'm going to help you through the process. We're going to walk through fire together. We're going to get dirty. We're going to roll our sleeves up. We're going to walk through the muck and we're going to go to war. We're going to put on our damn war paint. We're going to go all Braveheart on this shit and we're going to get it done together. And it's not going to be easy, because do I have to remind people that anytime you accomplish a major goal, the work leading to accomplishing that goal is never easy. Ask any high level competitor, any level athlete, or anybody who's lost 100 pounds. Nobody's going to tell you it was easy. But the thing is nobody at the end of that journey, whatever stage of that journey it is ever going to look back once they accomplish that goal and say, man, I wish I hadn't have done that. And we can bring that down to a microscopic level. We can take that a workout at a time. I work in the trenches. I have a private gym. I work with real people in real time. I work with people online. Every single day in my gym, somebody walks into the gym. They're facing whatever uphill battle in their life. They're having issues with their spouse, issues with their children, issues with their vocation, their work, monetary, financial issues, things are going on in this crazy world of ours. It's always beating the piss out of everybody. And they walk in kicking cans, dejected, not really sure they want to go through this. But what always happens? And it never fails. 100% of the time, literally 100%. When that workout is over, no one has ever said in my 30 years, I wish I hadn't have done that. Yeah. They walk out with their head high because they've walked through fire, they've battled, and there's something within our human nature, our human psyche that, is that people rise above, but you have to be willing to take that step. You got to be willing to get in the ring and start throwing punches. Otherwise, you're just going to melt into the seat. We see this every single day, and you see it on a whole different level than I do in some cases. So my thing is in regard to take it on a slightly different direction. I tell every consultation that I do a lot of consultations now. I started doing that about, 6-8 months ago. And I'm literally behind the screen every day for hours because people I found just want to have a conversation. In the culture, this digital culture we live in, that's so stale and plastic. People want to have a real human interaction with somebody, especially somebody who has their best interests at heart. And what I keep telling these people and what I discover is it's the path is harder than the plan. Always. The path is harder than the plan. I try to keep this simple. I say, listen, you have come to me with an aesthetic goal or a health goal or whatever the case may be. It may be goal driven to the point where it lands on this date, or you want it by this or by that, and that's fine. It's akin to traveling a map. You know, I could sit with you with anyone in a bar and take a tiny bar napkin, and if they said, what do I need to do to achieve the physique that I've always desired and the level of health and body composition changes, whatever the case may be, well, I can write that out in 4 or 5 bullet points on a bar napkin and say, here it is. Here's what you need to do. Here's the plan. It's the path. It's far more difficult. In other words, I could say to you, you want to go from where we are standing, you and you want to arrive 100 kilometers from here at this destination. So, okay, well, I know how to get there. In fact, I'm going to draw you a map, and we're going to start with where we're standing now. And I'm going to draw the most direct path from where we're standing now to where you want to finish. And you're going to take that map. It's going to be this nice, direct, straight line. You're going to say, oh, that's easy. I just put one foot in front of the other and I go that direction. Well, what I didn't tell you is you may have to cross a river. You may have to climb a mountain. You may have to climb a fence. You may have to, choose a fork in the road or an obstacle in your way. There's always going to be a challenge and an obstacle. The path that you travel is going to be wrought with peril. There's going to be things along the way, things that you didn't expect, things that you didn't see coming because you've never traveled that path before, or at least to this level. So it's traveling the path, because how many times, you've probably seen it too, a lot of people think, oh, if I just punch in the credit card number and give it to this individual, I'm going to lose 15 pounds just when the check clears. Mm-hmm. Well, then they find out, okay, he's given me the workouts. He's given me the macros. He's given me the nutrition. He's given me the entire prescription, every level that I need to follow in order to achieve success. But then you start looking at their path that they're taking. Missing workouts here, missing cardio sessions here.
So why do they do that? What are their excuses?
That's why, time, motivation. Mm-hmm. What is motivation? Okay. And these are things that you're going to be so, we discovered this is kind of your thing, but there is no motivation. Motivation is bullshit. Everybody's motivated now. But everybody's motivated to get out and go walk or run or lift. But when you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to strap on your shoes and you crack open the door and it's 26 degrees outside and it's dark and your home is very comfortable and very warm and the bed feels fantastic. And well, hey, there's, pancakes available if I want them. Well, that motivation wanes quickly. So it's more about dedication and determination, and finding that. That's the key, because you've got to find, you've got to strap on your armor and be ready to step out the door into the cold night and follow that path, because the plan is not that difficult. Lift weights, go to the gym, eat right, don't eat this shit. And that's a whole nother conversation. It's more about what not to put in your body oftentimes than it is what to put into it. If I tell somebody to eat red meat and eggs and fish and this and that, well, yeah, they can handle that. But we live in the greatest temptation culture of all time. I mean, you can't go to the hardware store and buy a fucking screwdriver without being tempted by candy and soda and chips at the checkout. At every turn, we're being inundated with these temptations. And then even in the culture, coworkers, family members are always wanting to bring you down to their level because it justifies their poor behavior. If you're trying to get in shape and change your life and make a wholesale change in how you look and how you feel, but the others in the room aren't on the same page, then psychologically, they're going to try to pull you down to their level to justify their laziness so we can all be part of the same team.
It's like the crabs in the bucket.
Exactly like that. So I know I've just word vomited all over you in the first 5 minutes here. But as you can see, I think the reason we get along so well is we're both very passionate about these sort of things, because it goes beyond, lifting. It's easy for me. I lift the weights. I love that shit. Yeah. I love the hardcore gym experience. I like to strap on my protein stained, nasty ass sweatshirt, crank up the music. And I like to walk into the gym with my workout partners and piss lightning and shit thunder and get things done. I love that stuff. I love the aggression of it. I love the experiment of it. But not everybody's like that. So you have to find ways to coax them into that environment and then prove to them that they're going to like the path, that the path, though difficult, is also going to be wildly rewarding once they get out there and travel a distance that they're not familiar with. And it's just getting them to embark on that path and walking into the unknown and getting comfortable with the unknown and knowing that on the other side of that darkness, they're going to pull back a veil at some point and see that as difficult as it was, there's going to be triumph on the other side. And once you experience that, you never regret the pain that you went through to get there.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, I'm a little bit curious because when I work with people, it is often because it's more intangible. My work is not tangible. For you, it's more about actually the aesthetics. You can see, you can measure it every time. You're going to lift heavier weights. Your muscles are going to grow, whatever. But when I'm working with people, there is brain rewiring happening behind the scenes. Sometimes that takes weeks before you even notice anything. And you just have to keep believing that whatever I'm doing right now is going to work. And that's where a lot of people lose their motivation. Well, I don't see anything. So it didn't feel like it was important, or as you said, time, I didn't have time to do it. All of a sudden we're down prioritizing what's actually really important because time, or because someone ate a cookie in front of me, or grandma baked this, or, there was a plate of sausage rolls at work and free lunch is great, or whatever it might be. And all of a sudden it's like, well, I've been really good. I've been trying this. I haven't had the results. So I'm wondering, do you come across a lot of that as well? Or is it more like people are just making excuses because it's actually hard work to get into the gym and do what they need to do?
Yeah. I mean, the funny thing is about also, though I am working with people in real time, face to face in the gym, you also have to understand that, many of my clients are here in the gym, not my online, but my in the gym clients are here 2 to 3 days a week, sometimes 30-minute sessions. So, for the 90 minutes that I see them a week, they're great. That's, like 1.5% of their total weekly time devoted to training. Yeah. It's the other, 98% that I'm not with them that it goes off the rails. So that's the challenge, is keeping people dedicated and on the path and taking one step forward in front of the other. And that's a difficult road. And, clearly I think the key to that, as simplified as it sounds, is as long as they're seeing some consistent success, then that's the person that's going to be a little bit more inclined to continue going. But that's another set of challenges. What are they going through in their life? What's their life like at home? What's their life like at work? It's very, very difficult. And I think, in this time in history where things have, never been worse since the last 60 years in terms of, what's put before us in terms of those temptations that I was referring to. It's trying to, psychologically navigate that, in real time with these people. And it's just extremely, extremely difficult. So, and I think another thing is one thing that I love about you, and I mean this, I'm not just blowing smoke up your skirt, is how you freely and openly admit your own, difficulties from time to time with these things. And that's something that I do too. Some people in this nutrition space look at that as a detriment, but I look at it the exact opposite. Example, if I come in on a Monday and somebody vents to me that they went completely off the wagon and just ate horribly and didn't do this and didn't do that and did this, and I'm like, I get it. Let's talk about it. And I'll say to them, yeah, my 15-year-old daughter, who in a cruel twist of fate loves to bake, and here I am, the guy that 2% of his annual intake of food is carbohydrate. And here's my daughter. At any given moment, I can walk out to the kitchen and here she is with sugar and flour flying everywhere like a freaking combat scene. And then, of course, she wants me to try the food. Well, yeah, I do from time to time. And sometimes it's freaking good because carbohydrates are addictive. There are people out there that say they're not. Those people are idiots. Those people have no clue. Okay. So yeah, there are times I'll walk in on a Monday, and when my client vets to me, I say, listen, I get it. You know, I ate my weight in cupcakes yesterday. I didn't want to. I shouldn't have. But then I explained to them that these things are going to happen on occasion, and we have to make sure that we pull that back, and we need to make sure that the other 90% of our time is dedicated towards becoming better. You know, if you're going to have an occasional transgression, it's going to happen. I just made sure that I didn't wind up in an alley somewhere panhandling for sugar, covered in powdered sugar, going completely off the rails. And so that's important too. That would be a visual. Yeah. Put that on social media. But no, exactly. I mean, you have to be real with people. And you did I believe it was a Facebook post a while back that I commented on when, you were talking about something to do with, carbohydrate is not freaking Satan. I mean, some people out there, it's part of their shtick to say, never eat another carbohydrate for the rest of your life. Never have another vegetable. Only eat meat, salt, and water. Well, that's fine. If you can do that, I have no issue with that. I'm all on board. But it's also not a very realistic or sustainable endeavor for the overwhelming majority of people in this world. And I'm okay with that. I mean, I'm the guy that thinks meat and eggs are the greatest foods on the planet, and you would do fine just eat those for the rest of your life. But that's not going to be sustainable for most people. And I'm also the guy that's vilified constantly because some of my hardcore training clients or my physique competitors or my not metabolically active broken people that I have prescribing some carbohydrate to. I've got a new client. She's a high-level NPC competitor, female. And her previous coach, carbohydrates were absolutely verboten. No, you cannot have them ever. Okay, if that's your ideology, that's fine. But then she came to me because she felt like because of where she was, a very metabolically fit, unbroken, strong, hard training, young female who wants to compete at the highest level, she heard me say, for that individual, some level of carbohydrate intake would be optimal for what you have chosen to do, meaning being a high-level physique competitor. And I've started working with her, and we've done a couple of mild carb ups and a tiny refeed to a level that I think will help her physique be taken to the next level. And she is absolutely over the moon over it, feels great, looks great, and is already getting staggering progress. I don't have her eating 600 grams of rice every day. It's a meticulous, calculated amount here and there in tiny amounts, but it's serving her well. Now, if I work with a morbidly obese cubicle sitting secretary or office worker, then no, I'm not going to do that. It's a completely different scenario. Yeah. But what do people do? They focus on that one thing that is against their ideology, and they attack me for it, when all I'm trying to do is the absolute best I can for my client to make sure that they are wildly successful and happy with the result. And that is it.
Yeah.
So I went off on the weeds there again.
You did. And I'm like, I want to respond to all of this. So I'm going to respond to some of it. And I think it's so important that we don't forget about we are individuals. Yes, as a human species, we probably don't thrive on a high carbohydrate diet. But having said that, there are tribes out there that have been eating a lot of carbohydrates and low fat, by the way, who actually do fine. So it's not like we can't do that. I think the major problem is the overload of all of it and together. So if you use food as a means to get to where you want to be, and you understand how the body is working, and that is your goal, and that is your priority, who cares if you're eating 50 grams of carbs per day or whatever it is that you prescribe to this woman? Maybe it's 100, maybe it's 150. I don't know.
You know what? It's 72 right now. And in time, it will be less. And in time after that, it'll be less. But I'm calculating it down to that damn day. So I do it precisely what she needs to stand on a stage in a high level competition in front of 2,000 people and competing against her peers in order to go to a national level competition. She has to look absolutely rocking. So I'm going to do what I think is in her absolute best interest to accomplish that. And guess what? She'll survive. She'll live with 72 grams of carbs right now. At some point, it'll be far less. And there'll be another time where we're going to refeed, and then we'll deplete, and then we'll ramp it up right before the show. And she will walk out on stage looking like a damn superhero goddess. And that's what she wants. It's not about me. I'm not standing up there in a bikini. God forbid. I mean, if you want to terrify people.
You give me many visions today.
I'm in a mood today. So this is the perfect day to talk to you because
Excellent.
I need to talk to you more often because you kind of are my therapist, Tim.
Excellent. I've just woken up, so I'm getting started. Give me some time.
Yeah, it's been a year for me, and this is going to do me some good. So
good. Get it all out.
Find my center here. I'm okay now. I interrupted you because you got me fired up again. So Sorry. Please continue. Please continue.
Yeah, I was just talking about now I get frustrated. So but people are just like, no, you can't have it. They are so locked into just one area of health, which might be carbs are not good because it raises your blood sugar, it causes inflammation, or whatever that might be.
Right.
And you're not even giving her diet advice to deal with the blood sugar because she doesn't have blood sugar issues. Her insulin seems to be working fine. Phenomenal. Obviously, with lots of muscle and very little fat, that is going to be the case.
Yes.
Most likely. There's always like one that doesn't fit the model. So let's just add that.
Right.
But if she is going to get the results that she wants, she's going to win competitions or whatever, like become a better athlete, and 70 grams of carbs or 72 is going to help her get there. Why wouldn't she do it?
Exactly. Thank you. That was very eloquently put. I wish I'd been smoother in my delivery. Then, clearly you were much better at that explanation than I was, because I just come off as some angry, crazy old man.
Well, I love it.
But let's just call it passionate. Let's call it passionate.
Yeah.
Because passion is good, right?
Yeah.
That's what I tell my wife when we're having a fight. She's like, "Why are you screaming?" I said, "I'm not screaming. I'm being passionate." Like, as that's going to make it all better.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that said, and I think we can tie this back to like the victim mentality, is like these people that are attacking you for prescribing carbohydrates to some people, what are they scared of?
I don't know.
And I think that these are people that actually feel like they need to control the world, or they have a responsibility to force the world to eat carnivore or whatever it might be, or stay away from the carbs, because it means something about them if we don't do that.
Yeah, and it all goes back to this, and I'll speaking of Bart K, I love that man because he is very narrowed in on what he believes, what he prescribes. And he's passionate about it. That was a good word for him. But
if you like.
But a couple of things about him is we've kind of had these discussions. And one thing that he and I both agree on, if what you're doing is working for you, then by all means, keep doing it. Mm. And, he's a very misunderstood guy. And though he comes across a little brazen, he's actually also one of the most kindest, generous people that I've interacted with in this space. Yeah. And to get a little personal, not to get weird here, but and I want to say this because it meant so much to me. From the beginning of the year through March, I was dealing with my mother and her cancer, and she passed. And it was a terrible time. But during that time, one influencer out in the carnivore ketogenic space, and I know hundreds, one took the time to really reach out to me and ask how I was doing and send condolences, and it was Bart K.
Oh, I have to be ashamed.
No. And I, but the point I'm making is none of us are going to agree 100%. But if we can agree on this one thing to an extent, that if what you're doing is working for you, then keep doing it, as long as it's contained within some sort of a reasonable umbrella. Meaning if somebody said to me, I'm eating nothing but gummy bears and styrofoam cooler lids and I look great, I'm going to be like, yeah, maybe, but that's probably not the best course of action. Here's why. But if somebody says to me, I am 100% carnivore, lion diet, I eat nothing but meat, salt, and water, and I am doing phenomenal, what am I going to say? Well, you might want to look into having a few carbs. I'm going to be like, that's great. Keep doing that then. Awesome. Yeah. Or if somebody comes to me and says, you know what, I tried going 100% carnivore, and I just had this discussion today with a gentleman that I'm working with. We did a Zoom check-in as one of my gold clients. And he said, I tried 100% carnivore and I did okay. But when I started doing the little bit of carbs at this specific time, at this specific amount, as you prescribe it, everything got a little better, a little tighter, a little harder, a little more energy, slept better, I'm like, then great. We're on to something.
Yeah.
But then if I say that, just in broad strokes, somebody out there watching this is losing their fucking mind. Why don't you just mind your own business and understand that my client is doing a small tweak to his carnivore lifestyle, which allowed him to create a greater benefit and create a more efficient inroad to accomplishing his desired goal. And to your point, he is not insulin resistant. He is not leptin resistant. He's not obese. His blood work is spectacular. He's super low body fat. He's very athletic, and it is just working for him. And then I have clients that come to me and say, hey, listen, I tried the little refeed and I just completely fell apart. I'm like, okay, well, it's a good thing we experimented with that. So we will have to go another direction and find an alternative approach that doesn't involve that much carbohydrate for you. I work with people who are on like 5 grams or less a day and are crushing it. And I have people who are taking in 100, 150 grams of carbs a day and are crushing it. So you really have to take it per the individual and truly understand where they are and what direction you need to go to make sure that they're getting the most optimized outcome from what you're prescribing.
Yeah. And I think we need to keep in mind that even 150 grams is actually fairly low carb.
That's low carb. If you go back to like the Atkins days, back in the 70s and 80s, that's low carb. That's considered low carb. And then it 100%. Went deeper with keto, and then, but the keto thing, that's how I landed in this landscape. I mean, if we want a quick history lesson, I was quietly minding my own business since 2010. I did very strict paleo from 2004 to 2010 after doing a decade of hardcore bodybuilding diets, which was the chicken and rice and all that kind of stuff. And then I did very, very well with paleo, and I went down many more rabbit holes and landed on full keto in 2010, minding my own damn business, just running my gym, taking care of people. And then when the keto explosion happened in 2015, roughly, at least over here in the States, that's when it really exploded. Then I started this little Facebook group called Ketogenic Bodybuilding, and I thought 12 people would join it, and it exploded. And people heard that I was training hard and having this great success on my version of a ketogenic diet. I called my ketogenic hybrid. And all of a sudden it was, floodgates of people emailing and messaging and calling, wanting me to help them with their ketogenic diet. And many of the subjects of the emails were like, fix my ketogenic diet. And in my experience during that time, for most of these people, and to be fair, most of them were training hard, athletic, lifted weights, bodybuilders, whatever. In most cases, it was a matter of bringing the fat down and bringing the protein up, because that's during a time when, people were saying 70%, 80% fat, and protein's bad and you shouldn't take in that much. And I was like, well, no, I'm not finding that's working quite as well. So I started working with these people very intimately. And as I dialed the fat back a little bit, raised the protein up a little bit, find that just the right ratio, and then adjusted the carbs just slightly, all of a sudden it was like, wow, things are happening. And that's how the whole thing just exploded and took off. And then consequently, I was also in a early stages of a contest prep, training to do a high level bodybuilding competition, doing a ketogenic diet that had a little bit of carb influx prescribed just right. And it just worked like a charm.
There you go.
Once again, though, that does, and then of course, then the keto zealots came flying out of the woodwork and attacked me. And I said, listen, I'm not saying this is for everybody. I'm saying this is for a certain demographic. And we determine that demographic once we start really delving into what the client wants to do, their history, where they've been, their blood work, and all these things. And because, I've got over 100 clients online currently, and they're split up into whole different segments. Some are using some carbohydrates, some are not, some are right in the middle. It varies by the individual. I've got a couple of people that love just doing paleo, like old school paleo, doing great with it. And God bless them. Why not? So, but I am, again, I have to keep reminding these people, look, dude, probably 90% of my diet is carnivore. And that keeps getting lost somewhere. All damn day long, I'm eating fucking steak and eggs and, salmon and fatty chicken and, pork.
The only thing they hear is cupcakes.
And
you ate cupcakes.
The time that I decide to take in 20 grams of fucking rice before I'm about to go deadlift 450 pounds, people lose their mind. And it's just insane. And I've done plenty of YouTube videos as to why I do the carbs around my training and what the reasoning is. And it's 3 major things and Anybody can check it out. Yeah. But they still want to attack me because it goes against their narrative and it might take money out of their pockets. If people out there understand that, I don't have to just eat raw hamburger for the rest of my life. Oh, well, good. Because I never could have sustained that.
Yeah.
So maybe part of the mystery that I thought we were going to talk about, we went completely off track
again,
is the mindset issue is maybe really is truly finding what is sustainable, but also conducive to, achieving the result. And then after that, it's just, that dance that we go through with our clients to keep them accountable and keep talking them off the ledge. And, I think in some way we are therapists, we are. I've got a client who, once I started doing Zoom consultations, which just went crazy. I spend most of my time behind this camera now. She did a Zoom consultation and it went great. We fixed a lot of things. She literally came to tears. We had so many breakthroughs. It was so great. And then 2 weeks later, I had another one from her. And then 2 weeks later, I had another one from her. And then 2 weeks later, I had another. And then a week later, I had another one. And then it started coming in every week. It's like, what the heck? Surely nobody needs this much hand-holding.
Yeah.
Well, she figured out that this crazy fitness guy is a whole lot less than the therapist I was paying. And I just need to talk to somebody. So I'll just book one with him every week, save myself $100, so I'm like, well, shit, okay. Yep. Well, if that works for you, then that's great. But I think people just want to have a dialogue, man. They want real compassionate human interaction. And, you're doing that and I'm doing that. Bart does that. And more people in this space who have the genuine interest of their client at heart need to have more compassionate interaction with these people that goes beyond weights and steps and macros,
Yeah, 100%. And I'll send them your way when I still get so many questions about, should I be eating more fat to get rid of my cravings? Should I be doing this? You don't need to get rid of the cravings. The cravings are always going to be there in some form.
Oh, thank you for saying that.
I don't have cravings a lot of the time, but I still have thoughts that compel me to want to get up and go and look in the cupboard. They're still there. And my brain tells me, I think you want some chocolate. And I'm like, what? No, I don't. It's just,
you need to,
a little bit of a reality
addiction?
check.
do you think that's a legitimate addiction, or do you think that's just easy accessibility combined with an addiction? I mean,
I think it's just old brain wiring that is still active, and it's going to keep playing every time I have an uncomfortable feeling. Like when I'm stuck working, when I feel like I want to procrastinate, then those thoughts are always coming up. Like, try to distract myself. Is there something else I can go and do? Yeah, I know eating is very pleasurable, so let's go and do that. Right. And I don't think I think you can overcome an addiction. I feel like I have overcome my addiction. I'm not addicted to these things anymore. But not to say that I can't become addicted again if I go back and do like eat the way that I used to eat. Of course, I'm going to become addicted again, because the brain is always wired to become addicted to things that you like. It's just going to happen. So we have to always choose. And that's where, again, if we want to go back to the bloody victim mentality that we're not talking about, is like, it's always getting in the way. When you are being the victim, you are never going to be able to get out of an addiction. You're never going to get the results in the gym that you want. You're never going to get anything that you want, because you're going to make everything mean in your environment that it's not your fault. And other people, the government, the circumstances is deciding exactly what you are doing. So it's completely out of your control. And sure, there's probably a reason for why many people are like that. It's probably, a lot of trauma and blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't matter. I mean, if you have unprocessed trauma, go to a therapist, get that sorted out. But just remember, like, you are not responsible for the things that are happening in the world, that are happening to you or around you, but you are responsible for the results that you get in your life and for how you react and what you make of it. And that's what I think people need to remember, that it's always within your control and you can do something about it. And I think that's what is driving me crazy. Is I often talk about people being stuck in the past. I've always done it that way, and it always happens this way. And I'm, well, so what? Just because it has always happened that way doesn't mean that it's always going to happen that way.
Right.
Because you're always able to choose in the moment whether you want to continue doing that or not. And all you need is that awareness.
Yep. And it's not helping that there is the people, the powers that control the universe, and centralized medicine and big pharma and the media and all these corrupt, nefarious elements that profit off of our subservient, adherence to everything, and become this brainwashed, mindless sheep that follow every instruction to the letter, no matter how insane, and then are told that there's nothing to see here. Just trust us. We're here. It's for your health. It's for your safety. I mean, we've been programmed, and I don't mean to get all crazy political and everything, but, we're being programmed at every level. And if we can step away from some of that influence and live a more organic lifestyle. And, I tell people, it goes beyond the weights, and it goes beyond the cardio, and it goes beyond the food, and there's environmental toxins. There's other things, X factors that go along with us living our best life. It's blue light stimulation. It's being behind screens after sunset, and a couple of my clients have benefited greatly by me saying, turn off the screen, turn off the blue light stimulation, put down the phone, talk to your family, go sit outside by a fire pit while the sun's going down, have conversation, read a book, the ones made out of paper, And
what do you mean? What are those?
Yeah. So, but because these things are playing just as great a role in our unraveling as a culture and a species. And it adds to the dependency that we have. It's like, I can tell somebody it keeps evolving a little bit, and we're making progress, and we're starting to see that more. But if I tell somebody in my gym, you need to lift weights, well, they get that. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, you probably need to go, walk around a little bit, get some steps in, work on your cardiovascular health. Okay. That makes sense. You should probably not eat this shit and eat this. And here's why. Well, I've heard that. Yeah, that makes sense. I can do that. Oh yeah. And try to get some sunlight and don't wear sunscreen. What? Mm-hmm. If I don't wear sunscreen, I'll get cancer and die. It's like, what? Chill, man. No, it's actually not the case. Let me explain it. No, I will not listen to this. I mean, that's literally the way they act.
Yeah.
When I tell people that, topical things they put on their skin and aluminum ridden deodorants and, fluoride ridden toothpaste and sunscreens and sunglasses and not getting in sunlight, all these things have a profound, overwhelming effect on our well-being and our mitochondria and our overall health. Well, they look at me like I just grew a second head right in front of them, that I'm completely insane. So I'm like, well, shit, now I got the next 6 months to try to convince my new client that these things are bad too, But I remember when it was lift weights, do cardio, eat right. Okay, I'm on board with that. Yeah. And then they'd start to do that in excess. And I said, now wait, recovery is a huge element of this. What do you mean? I need you to back off. Back off? Yeah. Don't train so hard. Don't train so much. Well, why? Well, then it's like all of a sudden it's the more is better mentality. So it's at every turn. It's like we're in this back alley knife fight, fighting the establishment and the indoctrination that people have been, put in front of for the last 65 years. And it's all in it to be an element of control. So certain people can stay in power and board members can continue to make profits off their stock options. And we suffer the consequences, but we still keep getting up, dusting ourselves off after our ass kicking and asking for more. So these cycles have to stop as well.
Yeah, and I think that all of that is feeding the victim mentality as well, because it's like, it's not your fault. Just take this pill and it's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay. Yep.
So what does that tell you? I mean, even if you don't believe it the first time you hear it, if you get to hear it every day for years and years on end, eventually you are going to believe it, whether you want to or not. That's how indoctrination works. Yep. And you're not even going to be aware of when it's happening. It's just going to happen, and all of a sudden you believe it. And now what? All right, there is no solution. The solution is the pill. So I need the pill.
Right.
Where's the pill? Pim, can you sell me the pill? How do I get rid of those cravings? There must be a pill.
Gotta be.
Because it's really freaking uncomfortable to do any mental work, working on your mindset, working through the uncomfortable feelings that you're going to have when you are anxious or when you have cravings or whatever it is. We don't want to feel that shit. Just take a pill. That's what they do.
And it's programming at a different level. I mean, we wake up out of our bed that we've been in for 6 to 8 hours, and then we walk into the next room where we sit down on a couch, and then we go to the next room where we, after taking our shower, we sit down, and women will put on their makeup, or men may do this. And then we go sit down again in an air-conditioned car that takes us to our office, where we walk a few steps and maybe take an elevator or an escalator, and then sit down behind our desk in our air-conditioned office that has vending machines 3 feet away and coffee being brought to us. And, and then we go home and we walk into the door after we've sat in the car again in air conditioning, listening to programming on the radio or on whatever means. And then we go home to repeat that cycle again. If you looked at your total 24-hour period in a typical day, probably a very small percentage of that would be spent actually walking upright. And then how much of that time is devoted to screens and being, indoctrinated by further information from people who want to do nothing more than turn us into nonstop consumers and buying their product, getting their pill, like you said. I mean, we are consumers. We've evolved into just massive consumers whose goal is to try to get the most out of life with the littlest effort possible. So when people break out of that mode, they rip that shell open and they step outside of it and they say no more. And they decide, I'm not motivated, I'm pissed off and dedicated, and I will achieve this. Yeah. And then my goal at that point is to be the map maker, but not only the map maker, but I've got to be the guide. So I've got to grab them by the hand and pull them reluctantly, in some cases, down the hard path to cross dangerous terrain in order to help show them the light. And when they start to achieve some successes and get a taste of that, then it starts to grow. So we've got to keep watering that plant and keep getting it to sprout and grow. And hopefully in time, it'll take hold and they become a different person. I'm just not sure how long that takes, though. I mean, you might know more about that than I do, but that's the challenges we face. And you nailed it right on the head.
I'm not sure. I think that's very individual. I have some clients that they just smash it out of the gate. I just have one worry for those clients is that I know that everyone will have a relapse at some point. And if they don't, when they work with me, that's going to happen when we finish working. So then I just need to prepare them for that.
Sure.
But I think what you're talking about is like, you have to start somewhere. You have to build a few wins along the way and actually acknowledge that you have those wins, that you are making progress. Because when you are in victim mode, you don't even look at it. You just see everything that goes against you, and you're using that as proof that the world is an evil place and you just can't do anything. Everything that is bad is happening to you and it's too hard. And somehow you are this special unicorn that can't do it. So I think it's really, really important that you set small goals, start somewhere, and, don't try to accomplish what you want to accomplish in 12 months in a week. Try to just make, some progress during the week. And then yes, I fucking did it.
Yep. That
is what will build a little bit of confidence. It will prove to your brain that not everything that is happening to you is going against you and that you're actually able to accomplish things.
Right.
And that's where you come in. It's like when someone comes to your gym or they want to work with you, they do a Zoom consultation or whatever, you can just help them to see that these things are actually happening. And just with the focus, I think, just telling them that this is what you need to do. Because as a victim, it's like, I don't know what to do. The world has to tell me what to do. And now you can be the world and you can actually help them and do something, which I think is super important. And that's what I do as well. I just tell them this is where you need to focus on now. I don't give a shit about the other stuff. I don't care if you go and stuff your face with cake, as long as you do this, because you need to start somewhere and redefine what success looks like. I actually had this conversation with a client of mine yesterday. She's done really well, and then she's gone back again. And she's looking so much at, but I can't stay on this protocol or whatever. And like, why do you let that define your success? What if success is just you doing the work that you need to do? And then trusting that that work is actually going to work for you long term, like over time. Right. If that is success, everyone can succeed. And then eventually, when you've been doing that long enough, you're going to have what you wanted anyway.
100%. Well said. Perfect.
Except my voice is going again. There we go.
I'm surprised mine lasts as long as I'm talking all damn day. It's like I go home and my wife's like, why are you so quiet? I've been talking all day. I just want to listen now. I just want to sit in the backyard and watch birds. That's all I want to do. But and you nailed it. You nailed it. You said, people get this immediate, mindset that it's all or nothing. It all has to happen super fast. And they go from 0 to 100. And I have to remind people every day, one of the things that I often remind people about is more is not better. It's about consistent effort. More is better. That phrase alone is a built-in guarantee. And there are no guarantees. Yeah. More is better. More is better in the weight room. More is better with doing any cardiovascular exercise. More is better with food. I mean, in the weight room, especially, I get people that I did a consultation with a client this morning. I said, you need to back off. You're doing too much outside of what is being programmed. And more is better is a built-in guarantee, which is never going to work long-term. It's not sustainable. So you're telling me that if I prescribe 3 sets, you're going to do 5. And if I prescribe 4 movements, you're going to do 7. And instead of working out for 40 minutes with high intensity, you're going to work out for an hour and a half. And then later you're going to do the 30-minute walk that I prescribed at a certain heart rate. And instead you're going to go an hour and a half and you're going to jack your heart rate and you're going to throw in an extra session tonight. And then hey, why not go do the freaking class at the YMCA down the road later that night. And then they wonder why they're burning out, plateauing, and not getting results. More is better is a built-in guarantee that goes nowhere. It's finding the precise amount required to elicit the result. And the precise amount required is going to be the maximum amount of effort you can do in the shortest amount of time in the weight room. And it's not about going, all out balls to the wall doing cardio. It's about let's just start by doing 10,000 steps a day. That's just being upright. That's all I care about. Just be upright and moving. Be a moving, functioning human being.
Yeah.
That's the mentality. Is like, I know this is a cliche, but it's the journey. There is no end result. I mean, you may achieve a certain level of success and you may hit certain goals along the way, but you don't just lose 10 pounds or put on 5 pounds of muscle or achieve this goal and say, well, I'm done, did it, I can stop now. No, that's insanity. That's like saying, well, I ate for a month, I ate the food and I don't have food anymore, So yeah, I mean, people, it's hard to convince people that, the cliche that this is a lifestyle, and it's going to take a certain amount of time to take any new activity that seems foreign to you and turn that into a conditioned habit. And that is psychological achievement that people have to go through, but it takes time. So
how do you pull people back when they're like, yeah, but I'm so motivated, and now when I have this motivation, I just need to do it, and then they start overdoing it? Like, how do you get through to them?
That's a good question. In terms of exercise, I don't have a hard time with that. And that's an excellent question. And I can use an example of a gentleman that I spoke with today, who's one of my clients, who's just doing amazing.
Yeah.
And he's saying his workouts are going great. This prescription that I'm giving is doing fantastic. The diet is working phenomenal. He's trying to get to a certain goal to be absolutely just shredded at 51 years old for a Vegas trip that he's going on in August. But then he went on a long tirade about sleep quality, sleeplessness, a little tired, a little lethargic, And I said, okay, well, do you want some advice? And he's like, yeah, that's why we're talking. And I said, what is I often like to ask questions in order to get people stirring and thinking. I said, do you know what the one of the main symptoms of overtraining is? He's like, I don't know, fatigue. I'm like, no, it's poor sleep. And the one thing that you've complained about during this consultation, this check-in, is your sleep quality has been poor and you've been having trouble falling asleep and trouble sleeping soundly. And it's not like he's on such a deficit that it would cause that, because that can happen in a deep deficit. He's not super deep yet.
Yeah.
And then I pointed out his calendar, because I see everything my clients do. So it's a great measure of accountability. And because they have an app and I see everything, I'm like this overlord,
The big brother.
And there's a blue dot that if it's checked off, if the workout turns blue, they completed the workout. And if I give some cardiovascular prescription, that's green. And if they completed that, then it turns fully green. Well, I look at his and I see the blue, the workout's done. And then the one green that I prescribe, and that's done. And that's usually something very laid back because he doesn't have to go crazy on cardio to get success. But then I see another green and another green and another green. 3 additional cardiovascular inspired training sessions. There was like, okay, after he did his 30-minute walk at this heart rate, then 2 hours later, he did 20 minutes of hardcore cycling intervals. And then 2.5 hours later, he, did 40 minutes on the elliptical. And then the next day he did something similar and ended the night with a HIIT workout, high intensity interval training workout. I'm like, dude, number one, you don't have to exercise yourself lean. And we're back to the more is better, issue that I had talked about earlier. And I said, I promise you, if you pull back on your output and focus more on your recovery, your sleep is going to improve and the quality will improve. And you're going to find that recovery is a weapon, because the exercise is the stimulus. And what did I say earlier? You find the greatest level of intensity in the shortest amount of time possible to stimulate. And then you not only have to compensate back from that activity that you went through, but then you have to overcompensate. The overcompensation is new growth. That is success. But if you're constantly putting out way too much output, more than you can recover from, then you're just creating a deeper inroad to the recovery process. It's like taking one step forward and two steps back.
Yeah.
And he had this aha moment, like, okay, I get it. Now, if I would have told him that on a text message, it probably would have been whatever.
Yeah.
But for me to sit here and look at him and say, dude, listen to me. I can make you better if you pay attention. Then that resonated with him. He's like, I get it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And it was sincere. I know the guy will comply. And I think he's going to see great success from that. And, things like that come from, Jesus, working with real damn people every fucking day for 30 years.
Yeah.
Turns out you learn a few things.
Oh, really?
About what's going to work and what doesn't, Can you imagine that? Have you ever experienced that? I'm sure you have.
Maybe.
Every damn day. So yeah, it's like in the case of I tell the story all the time of my physique competitor client, female, who was just crushing it and had gotten to a point where she had completely stalled. Hey, this is back to the carbohydrate thing. Ooh,
oh, no.
Just up. Ooh, controversy.
Yeah.
She was wanting to compete in the bikini division of a physique competition at a high level. She wanted to do it on more of a ketogenic carnivore diet, which was great. I encouraged that. She was crushing it, but had gotten to a point in her lead into the competition where everything had shut down. She wasn't dropping any more body fat. Nothing was changing. She had hit that level of just completely stalling out, which is normal. So she contacted me in utter desperation, as can happen in the later stages of a contest prep when you're not always thinking clearly. Mm-hmm. And she said, I don't know what to do. I'm clearly in a deficit. I'm clearly doing everything you prescribe. I don't miss a workout. I don't miss a cardio session. I'm hitting the macros to the letter every single day. And she was. Mm-hmm. I said, here's what I want you to do. Tonight, before you go to bed, I want you to take 3 rice cakes and just drench them in honey and salt and devour those. And then I want you to get a banana and cake that in almond butter with more honey and some salt and devour that. And then drink a big glass of water and go to bed. She said, are you out of your fucking mind? She's like, I'm trying to I'm trying to get leaner. I said, I know. This will fix it. Do what I told you and go to bed. Time passed. I woke up the next morning. I wake up every morning at 4 a.m. About an hour later, I had a message on my phone from the client. And she said, I don't know what kind of voodoo horse shit you're giving me here, but I woke up 1.5 pounds lighter. I look like I'm carved out of wood. I'm vascular. I feel amazing. And I can't wait to get up and get out of bed. I said, I know. I knew it would. That's why I told you to do it. She's like, okay. I said, we had to throw some dry wood on the fire. We had to adjust the thermostat. We had to get things moving along again. Now, I'm not going to tell you there's any hard science behind any of that, but I know the mechanisms in place that work, and I know these things work all the time. And these are the kind of things you have to look out for. You have to hear these people when they're telling you things are not working. What do I do? Tell me about it. Okay, try this. And it usually works. And, so once again, there's a carnivore, dogmatic carnivore zealot out there, or a keto zealot out there that's like, oh, I would never do that to my client. Well, I'm sorry for your client, because in some cases, those things work like a damn charm. And it's not about you. It's about them.
Yeah. I actually realized that I did it slightly different, obviously. Many years ago, probably about 15 years ago, I was doing keto as I used to do then. And I had my cheat ice cream, a tub of Ben & Jerry's ice cream. And I had been losing a little bit of weight and then stalled for weeks. I just had a tub of ice cream, woke up 2 kilos lighter. I was like, what's going on here? It just got my metabolism going somehow. Yeah. Unfortunately, it doesn't work if you do it every week, but if you're being really low carb.
No.
Yeah. But it really worked. And I was like, really? I can eat ice cream as, a tool to lose weight. Turns out it 100%. Did. I wouldn't recommend ice cream though, but
No. But like the client I referred to earlier that I have on 72 grams of carbs, and she's a petite young female. And she did her first structured, calculated refeed this last Saturday and was nervous as hell, because you drank the Kool-Aid of, carbs are the devil. And if I eat them, my head will explode and I'll grow a tail. And she took the prescribed amount of carbohydrates the following day on a carbohydrate refeed. I lowered the fat, raised the carbs, kept the proteins roughly the same. And she was reluctant and terrified, but did it. And then the next day told me that she was 1.2 pounds lighter on the scale, which, we know that is a variety of reasons that happens.
Sure.
But most importantly, it gave her this psychological boost. She felt amazing. She said, I feel tighter. She gave me progress pictures where you could see a greater amount of definition and muscle fullness, and which is exactly what we were trying to achieve. And she's going to find that, throwing a little gas on the fire at just the right amounts here and there is going to keep that fire burning and keep us working towards the ultimate goal if we meticulously keep working our way through it. And it's the Wild West, man. Nutrition is still the Wild West, and we're still figuring things out, and the same plan doesn't necessarily work for everybody. And let me just reiterate for those who just still have their head stuck up their ass, if you're doing 100% carnivore and it's working for you, don't change a damn thing.
Yes.
If you're eating 100 grams of carbs a day and lots of grass-fed beef and free-range eggs and, whatever, and that's working for you, great. Don't change a damn thing. It's a very individualized thing. We can agree on a couple of bullet points. Seed oils are terrible. You'd be better off never to consume it ever again. Too much refined food is bad. Refined carbohydrates, excess, simple sugars, not good. We can all agree on that. We can agree that resistance training is helpful, that muscle is beneficial, that it's good to, walk around a little bit, and sitting might be death.
But we can't agree on how much we're going to do.
Yeah, but the nuances around nutrition are open to the individual and are different for all to some degree. And we have to be willing to peel back the curtain and delve into that and experiment and understand the process and, keep fighting to do whatever we have to do that's going to be best for the client or the individual.
Yeah, I've never been anyone who tries to build a lot of muscle. I just like you, I just enjoyed working out in the gym. I'm not doing it now because it's way too far to even go to the gym here, and the gyms here suck. So I've kind of lost interest when I moved to New Zealand. But when I used to work as a personal trainer many years back now, I have never been as fit as I was then. And it was not because I was actually spending a lot of time in the gym working out. The thing is that I worked out a lot less than when I wasn't working so much. And it was just me showing people how to lift the weights, maybe helping them, being active all day long, moving some fucking heavy weights here and there, just doing that sort of work for 8 hours per day or whatever. Sure, I did some classes and stuff, but, in general, I would not spend that much time working out. And I was more fit then than I ever was, like having a routine, doing like 3 or 4 days per week at the gym, like, oh yeah, I'm going to build my muscle here. It never really worked for me, whereas just lifting a little bit here, a little bit there seemed to work wonders for me. Why is that?
Well, I mean, again, it's about being up and upright and active and not overextending your output is huge. And that goes a long way. I mean, I'll get 15,000 steps in my gym just walking around telling people what to do, maybe put a weight on this machine, hand them a set of dumbbells, and then I'm active. And then at this certain time, then I train, but I train with 3 other guys. Yeah. And our brutal workouts are 3 or 4 guys. We're done in 40 minutes. It's just all out, high intensity, and then done. Let it grow, let it compensate, and then overcompensate. And then I go home and I'll be 55 years old in November. And I'd go out in my backyard and I'd chase a 5-year-old grandson around the backyard on the trampoline, playing tag, wrestling, playing war and superheroes and, that yard work. I mean, it just never stops. And then maybe for 45 minutes, right around sunset, I'll finally collapse on a lawn chair and, sit back with my wife and my daughter and my dogs and just relax as the sun goes down and ground my feet on the earth. And And then I wake up at 4 a.m. the next day and go back to battle again. And I think there's a lot to be said with just being upright and mobile and just being in that groove and in that flow and finding that precise amount required of activity to sustain results without overextending ourselves and creating that inroad into the recovery cycle.
Yeah, I love that. I don't know if this was actually the case when I was younger, but now I get very, like, physically and mentally really, really tired if I go for an extended workout. Like, if I keep them short, I'm usually fine. But if I go to the gym for an hour, like, I need to sleep. That's what I noticed. And I don't think that happened when I was younger, but that's clearly something that's come with age.
Oh, I get it.
Maybe that's not what we should be doing with our bodies.
No, I get it. I mean, I preach this constantly. I mean, anybody who follows what I do will nod. Yeah, I know what he does. There are certain metrics in strength training. There's volume, intensity, duration, and frequency. Of all of these, by far the most important is intensity. That's the key. When I was at my very best, competing in higher level bodybuilding, I trained 4 days a week for 30 to 40 minutes. But those 30 to 40 minutes were all out.
Yeah.
By not having all of that volume, then the body can handle that load for that short, high intensity amount of time. And then you're done. You walk away from it. You go back to baseline. And then at that point, you restart the recovery cycle. I can't tell you how many clients have decided to work with me to do full training, my gold package, which is training, cardio, nutrition, Zoom calls, everything. Mm-hmm. And one of the first things I do with nearly all of them is back them up. Some of them are doing 6 workouts a week or 5 workouts a week or 7 workouts a week. If that's the case, the first thing I do is pull them back to 3 or 4. I bring up the intensity and pull down the volume.
Yeah.
Instead of doing 4, 5, 6 sets, I'll have them do a feeder warm-up set and then move into a set of high intensity to more failure of 8 to 10 reps and then move on. I painted a picture to another client the other day that I just started working with now full time. And he starts talking about the 3rd set and the 4th set and the 5th set and then the 6th set. I'm like, clearly we're not on the same page. Let me walk you through a quick scenario. I'll try to get through this quickly because it might bore some people. But I said, let's say you warm up your muscles. Let's say you're doing a particular movement. Let's say a machine chest press off the top of my head. You warm up your muscles by doing a set to maybe 60% of what your perceived maximum effort would be. And then let's say do one more just to make sure you're properly warmed up, joints are lubricated, tendons are ready to rock. You're mentally focused. You're in the zone. Now, put on as much weight as you think you could possibly handle for 8 to 10 reps. Move that weight with impeccable form to the point of absolutely momentary concentric muscular failure, to the point where one more additional rep would be absolutely impossible. So if you're on rep 8 and it's nearly impossible, and then you bring it back and you go for that 9th nearly impossible rep where everything's shaking and you've got cartoon sweat coming off your forehead and you're freaking out and grunting and it's everything you've got and you just barely make that last one or maybe don't even complete that last one.
Yeah.
And then bring it back to rest. Here's my question. Why would you do another one? I ask that question all the time. Nobody has a proper response. The only proper response would be, well, I guess I wouldn't need to, would I? Which was what he said ultimately after the uncomfortable silence, because it makes total sense. Once you've created, the growth mechanism has been put into motion, and then any additional work would once again just create a deeper inroad to the recovery process, bringing diminishing returns over the course of time. The greatest amount of intensity in the shortest time possible. That's also good news for many people who have time constraints. My clients love the fact that most of my sessions are 30 minutes long.
Yeah.
They come in here and for 30 minutes, they piss lightning and shit thunder. And I drive them through it. And then they leave and they're done. While other people are down the road at the big commercial box gym, working out for 2 hours, meandering around the gym, cherry picking machines, not knowing what the hell they're doing, clicking another selfie. My clients are in here getting shit done all out for 30 minutes and then they're done. Go about your business now. Go live your life and recover. And they love that.
Yeah, of course.
That's the way it needs to be done.
Yeah, and I want to draw a parallel there actually, because this was also part of this conversation I had with this client yesterday. And she's like, yeah, but it's so hard when you have, she has a very dramatic brain, and it's so much fun for me to point that out for her. But she's like, yeah, but it's not a problem. Sometimes it's not a problem when the craving is like a level 3, but if it's a level 9, then I can't do it. And I'm like, that is like going to the gym and lifting 2 kilo weights when you can lift a 15 kilo weight.
Exactly.
You're never going to get the result by trying to sit with a craving that is a level 2, because you're not actually having to do anything anymore. You already train your brain to that level that you're not going to get any more progress. You need to go at the cravings as if they were weights in the gym. When they are easy, you're not learning anything from that. You need to go for the heaviest or the most intense cravings that you can right now to actually tell your brain that you're capable of doing this, and it doesn't matter how intense the craving is. When you can handle a level 10 craving, that's when you're starting to really win over the cravings and starting to get the level of brain rewiring that you need to not even have to think about it.
Yep.
So if I can
100%.
lift 150 kilos, I don't have to think about picking up a 70 kilo weight. It just happens, and my brain doesn't even have to think about it. It's the same thing with the cravings. So I just want everyone who's listening, like, draw that parallel and see how it works. It's the same thing with everything that you do in life. When it's easy, you never learn anything from it. It needs to be hard in some regard for you to get the progress that you need to get to where you want to be.
Excellent analogy. So I often use, a suntan. If I sit under a 100-watt light bulb, I'm not going to get a tan. If I sit under it for 10 hours.
Yeah.
Or if I go lay in the Costa Rican sun for 8 hours, I'm going to be burnt to a crisp.
Yeah.
But if I get in the sunlight for the precise amount of time required to get a result, which might be 30 minutes, 45 minutes at the most, depending on your skin type, and then you get out of it and cover up and then let the tan form.
Yes.
It's a defense mechanism against stress.
Yep.
We have the stressor, and then it's the recovery. And in the recovery element is when the compensation and growth occurs and you get the desired result. So, it's precisely what you said. Perfect analogy.
Yeah. It just popped up in my head. And I was like, this is the same shit.
We'll write that down.
We're all dealing with the same shit. Doesn't matter what the area is that you're struggling with. It's going to be very similar. Yeah. When I have problems with my procrastination, it's going to be like, it's because the thing that I want to do, I have the most resistance to it. That's why I want to avoid it. And that's why I want to go out and look in the cupboard in the kitchen. Yep. Same shit.
Accountability is so important too. I mean, as much as I love training and as much as I take this very seriously, and I'm very driven to try to be the best version of myself that I can be at any age. When I mentioned everything I went through dealing with my mother and her cancer for those months earlier in the year, I missed workouts and I missed time. And when I finally got back to the gym, I was out of the game. My head wasn't there. And left to my own devices, who knows how far I would have let that go. But I've got workout partners who show up at 11 a.m., 4 days a week. And I know when they walk through the door, I can't just sit here. I've got to get up, dust myself off, walk out there and get shit done. And I have that level of accountability, And at home, I have that accountability. My wife has that accountability with living with my crazy ass. My 15-year-old daughter, though she loves to bake, she still has a level of accountability knowing that excess is not going to be good and she has to limit these things. And so we all hold ourselves accountable. That's like one of the first questions on my new client questionnaire is, how much support do you have at home?
Yeah.
And I need them to truly expand on that. And then on occasion, somebody will say, you know what, my wife or my husband or my significant other or my partner, whatever the case may be, isn't very supportive. Then I know this is going to be a hard damn road, So that's another element. And, I'll tell my clients, listen, I know this is going to sound simple and elementary, and I know there's more dynamics to it, but you need to take your partner, your spouse, whoever, and ask them for 20 minutes of their time maybe an hour. Sit them down at the table, turn off all distractions, grab them by the hand and say, this is extremely important to me, and I need your help. Can you, will you, are you willing to do that for me? Do you love me enough to support me through this? Because I can't do it without you. It needs to be that kind of a dialogue. And more often than not, they're going to say absolutely. And nobody's going to be perfect. There's still going to be distractions, and there's, but if we have that real understanding, it can't just be flippantly walking through, hey, I started another diet today. It'd be really nice if you'd support me. And it's just, this, it's two magnets. So there needs to be real understanding, So I call it my kitchen table conversation. You need to have that kitchen table conversation. And it needs to go like this. And, that simple thing that you'd think anybody would think of oftentimes is never thought of or never taken or done in that manner. And it can be a very, very powerful tool. If I've raised 4 kids, my fourth one is, as I said, 15. And there were times where things were not going so well. And rather than just beat them down for 10 minutes in a random location, if I would pull them into a neutral location and set them down face to face with no TV, no distractions, and grab their hand and look them dead in the eye and say, I need to talk to you about this. This is terribly important. This is some serious stuff, and I need you to hear me. Can you do that? Yes. Okay, here's the issue. And then you ask them to verbally comply. Can you do this for me? Can we work together to make these improvements or walk through this together? And I will hold you accountable and you can hold me accountable. Is that fair? Yes. Phrasing can be important.
Yeah.
Is that fair? Yes. Well, nobody's going to say that's not fair unless it's terribly unfair.
Yeah.
Which generally it won't be. And then we have a mutual understanding, and that's a very powerful moment. And my children have remembered those times where I said, I need 15 minutes of your time. This is very important to me. Oh, wow, Dad, what's going on? Wow, we're sitting across from each other. This is getting weird. Why? Why are you holding my hand? Well, he's dagger straight stare in the eye. What's going on here? And then when you explain things calmly and rationally, and then ask them for their support, and then finally say, are we in agreement? Is that fair? Can I have your support? And if so, then I will support you. That can be a very powerful moment. Mm. It's another one of those simple things that you think, oh, well, that's clearly, well, but how many people don't do that?
About everyone, probably.
About everyone. Yeah. I mean, how many parents now are just sending text messages to their kids saying, go clean your room?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's terrible.
So, anyway.
Yeah, so and I think that's a really I have never told my clients to do it that way. It's like, why don't you talk to your partner? So maybe I should be more clear about how to actually do it as well. But it's very, very common, and I'm of two minds here. So one is, like, you can always ask for the support. And I think whatever is happening, you can tell people, you can tell them what you would like them to do to support you. But if they don't do that, don't hang your emotions on it.
Right.
Like, if they do it, great, it's a good help. But not everyone is going to do everything that you want them to do. Yeah. And I have many clients who they cook for other people, either professionally or in their families. And they're going to have to deal with those foods no matter what, because just because they want to be carnivore doesn't mean that the rest of the family wants to be carnivore. And that's fine. But they, as you say, they're going to feel like there is no support because they still have to cook all of these foods that they don't eat anymore. And then we have to just bring it into ourselves and support ourselves and be really focused on why it is that we're doing this. Like, why does it matter to you that you eat this way, rather than focusing on all the things that you can't have? Because that's also going to get you into the victim mode. Like, oh, poor me, I can't have it, and everyone else is eating it, and it's so hard for me to not do it. And then I just did it because it's my family's fault because they eat it.
100%. Well said.
Circumstances, like, no one else is doing it, so I can't do it. And
well,
that's terrible.
I don't think we've solved any real problems, but I think we've created a serious dialogue that makes a lot of sense. It certainly gives me more clarity when I have these discussions. So, we all need to take a step back and sit down and take a deep breath and, and think about the direction. And, there's a phrase that I've had in my head for 30 years that someone that I admire told me. And he said, it's your care for others that is your true measure of greatness. And I never get that out of my head. So when I'm feeling all high and mighty and it's about me and the things that I want, then I stop and I remind myself that your care for others is your true measure of greatness. And the kind of greatness that you achieve by taking care of others is a humble, giving greatness that doesn't necessarily need attention or any spotlight put on it, but it's a self-gratifying, thing that that you're reaching out to someone else and trying to make a positive change. And I don't think there's any better feeling than that. It's, it's truly better to give than to receive. And
Absolutely.
You're doing that on a regular basis. So that's awesome.
And I'm doing it for selfish reasons because it feels really damn good.
Yeah, it does. And there are worse things. I could be selling insurance, Yeah,
that doesn't make me feel good though.
No.
And I'm sure insurance helps a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I've always been that person that listens to other people and want to help other people and help other people achieve rather than being the one, like I'm the support person rather than the one actually standing in the spotlight. And I thrive being there. I don't want to be some sort of celebrity. It makes me uncomfortable. It's like, what the fuck? It's just me.
No, I get it. Yeah. I technically, by nature, I'm more introverted and I'm not a big crowd person, but I'm great one-on-one. And I like having those one-on-one conversations. I'm a very private person. When I turn off the camera and I walk out of the gym, I go straight home and I surround myself, with family and dogs. And I basically just keep to myself, and it's just quiet solitude and reflection. And, that makes me happy. And then, cause one day I'd like to be on 50 acres in a solar cabin and completely escape humanity for the most part. And
me too.
Just maybe do some consultations here and there with the benefit of the interwebs and, just milk cows and shit,
Yep. That's my dream too. Slightly different, but pretty much the same flavor.
Pretty much the same. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
So on that note, because we've been going for quite some time, which is kind of fun, but we also have lives, so we need to do other shit. So the last thing I wanted to add is just like, stop being dependent on other people needing to do things for you to achieve what you want to achieve. Figure out what it is that you need to do and what you need to think, like what your mindset needs to be for you to actually get there.
100%.
So what are your last words? You get some as well.
People need to learn that strength is power, humble strength, and you need to learn how to say no. And by giving back to yourself through hard work and dedication and fortitude and finding that inner strength, all that will do is make you a better servant to others. Women so often, and I've worked with so many women, and I'm married to a wonderful woman who is so selfless. And oftentimes, and men do it too, they get so stuck in the trap that I'm so dedicated to taking care of everyone around me that I forget to take care of myself. And then they need to realize that by taking care of themselves and putting themselves first, then by extension, they will be able to give so much more to others and be such a more positive influence on their lives in every possible way. So regardless of what your circumstances are, take the steps, say no to the outside voices, stand up for yourself, strength is power. It's okay to be strong. It's okay to say no. It's okay to stand your ground and fight for your convictions, because there are amazing victories at everyone's disposal. And it starts with a simple step that can start tomorrow. And the path is going to suck, and you're going to have to wade through swampy creeks and climb fences and mountains and get in freaking knife fights with people along the way. But ultimately, those little battles and victories will strengthen your resolve, and you'll be stronger for the finish line. And when you have those accomplishments in your life, the feeling is unlike any other. And with every battle fought and every victory won, it takes you another step closer to the most fulfilling life you can possibly have. So, it sounds like a bunch of motivational mumbo jumbo, but remember, I don't believe in motivation. I believe in hard work and dedication. And through that, when you come to the end of that first road, you're going to be open to a whole new awareness, and it's just going to strengthen you. There's a great saying in the nautical world, like people who, navigate boats from back in the day. And that was, strong waters make tough timber. And what that means is when they were out at sea for long periods of time, which is a tough job.
Yeah.
And they would come into storms and choppy waves. And when that hard water was slapping the hull of the boat, that constant slapping of the hard waters on that timber made the timber stronger, made it more resilient and harder. So we have to, get slapped around a little bit here and there and fight that adversity. And it's just going to make our timber much stronger, and to be able to handle anything that comes our path. And isn't that really what the goal is? To be able to handle anything that might come your path?
Yeah.
I mean, that's mine, and in every endeavor, that's just going to benefit me and benefit my family and the people that love me and have put their faith in me, and allows me to be a better provider and better for everyone else. So.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much for coming on and talking to me today. This was awesome. And I hope we can do something again.
The fact that you can get through an hour and a half with me tells me all I need to know about you, that you're strong as shit to be able to tolerate that. And thank you for the therapy session. I feel so much better than I did an hour and a half ago. I feel like a big weight is lifted off my shoulder. You're good at what you do. You're a natural and easy to talk to, and I appreciate it.
I just have to sit here.
Can we please do this again soon?
Absolutely.
We need to do this on a regular basis, even if we're not filming. We'll just shoot the shit, because I feel better. But no, thank you so much for allowing me this time. And
well, thank you.
I truly appreciate it. I wish nothing for the best for you. And I know that anybody who, endeavors to work with you and speak with you and consult with you is going to be better for it. So keep doing what you're doing.
You too, for sure.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. My pleasure.